Hey everybody, it's Saturday night. We're down here in my fish room, and I'm happy to say that all my tanks are brightly lit. All the filters are up and running. I deliberately have the garden filter, or the garden tank, in the middle of the room here. I've deliberately got the light turned out. So I did have one issue with one filter, but we'll get to that in a second. The reason I'm showing you all these tanks that are brightly lit and talking about how the filters are running is because we've got a tree down across the lines across the street from the house, and it sounds like the trucks just showed up, but the power's been out down the street and in the neighborhood for about the last, I don't know, hour and a half or 2 hours, and yet here we stand in my fish room with all these tanks nice and brightly lit. So let me put you here on pause. Alright, I think that gets the point across. We're running on generator power. So I spent quite a bit of money, not so much buying the generator, but getting the line hooked up so that the generator feeds directly into my bus panel. So when the power goes out, I do have to flip a few switches manually and go outside and pull start the generator. You know, it's not one of those deals that just starts up automatically as soon as the power shuts out. But if you've ever priced generators and you've looked at those generators that shut off and start up automatically when the power comes on or off, you will know that they are very, very expensive generators, and mine is not. I actually spent more money getting the electrical work done, having it wired into my bus, than I spent on the generator itself. But it serves its purpose. It gives me just enough juice to keep all my fish tanks up and running at an adequate level. I usually do go around and turn off any lights that I don't need on, like the garden tank here in the middle of the room. That's 200 watt draw, so I don't need that lit all the time. That saves me an extra 200 watts off of what's drawing off that generator outside. And I turn off the little UV lights and so on and so forth if I don't need them up and running, and then that helps me conserve the amount of juice I use. So I've got enough extra electricity that I can keep the house running at a minimum. You know, I can't have the well pump running at the same time we're washing clothes and running the heat and all that kind of stuff, but I can keep my food, from going bad. I can keep the refrigerators up and running. I can keep the lights on in the house. I can keep the heat on if it's in the winter. If it was bad enough, I could keep the AC on, if the weather was hot enough or whatever. So it's enough to get me by. And I actually got that generator on Amazon. I've kind of forgotten all about that. I'll put a link down below. It wasn't expensive. The generator itself was only $369 or $469. I don't even remember. I've had it for years now. But I'll try to find it or something similar, and I'll put a link down below. And again, if you want to just run extension cords off of it and not mess around with all the other electrical hassles, then, a little portable generator like that, even if you've only got a few tanks, you can get a small portable generator for not very much money at all. A little generator that would be enough to run several tanks, run a small fish room, you could probably get for $150 or less, and it would be, again, something you could set out on the patio, and it would be enough to keep your fish tanks up and running while you had a power outage or something like that. So far so good, not having any issues. Everything is still up and going. The one thing I will say I had an issue with, and I'm not sure what's going on with it, is this filter down here. If you'll notice, I've got some moisture in the carpet. Now, when I put this filter back together the last time I did a water change and I was pumping on it to get the water flowing again, it wasn't working right. I was pumping furiously and the water wasn't flowing, and what was happening was the water was actually squirting out where the handles connect. Every time I pushed down on the plunger, I was squirting water out. And so when the power shut down and I came in here, the first thing I did when I got the generator up and running is I came in to make sure all the tanks were indeed up and running, and I hadn't flipped one of the switches properly, and this room was not up and running. Only one or two tanks in here was working. it's because they're on separate lines. The one line was running and then the other line was not, and I had to go in there and flip another circuit breaker to get the whole room running. In the meantime, anyway, when I came in here to find out that it wasn't running, I looked under there to maybe see if the one plug strip that all these tanks are plugged into, I thought maybe the circuit had broken on that or something. And when I lifted it up, that's when I saw that water under there. So it definitely happened while the pump was not flowing. And we can see now, you know, I can clearly see we've got plenty of pump action. It's not draining out of the tank or sucking water out of the tank or anything, but I am going to have to figure out what's going on down here and probably wind up buying another one of these filters. They're pretty inexpensive. I'll put a link down below to that too. It's a Sun 304B. I have a lot of them. Again, they're really inexpensive, but they're kind of a no frills, you know, they're sort of a cheapy filter. They function, they do their thing, but don't expect them to last forever. When you buy them, you'll get a few years out of them, and then, you know, by the time the pieces and parts are starting to wear out, it's honestly just cheaper to buy another one than it is to start worrying about replacement parts on them. So that's usually what I do. So I'll probably be in the market for a new filter here in the near future, rather than even try to figure out why it was backflowing or whatever it was doing. Just get a new one and be done with it, you know, and then I'll be up and running again. So at any rate, I know the truck's pulled up out front. I know they're out there working on it. Maybe if I get a little bit of time later, I'll get down here and at least double check to make sure it's not still leaking. All that dark material you see around it is some towels I put on the floor just to mop up the water. That's not a giant puddle or anything that it's sitting in. That's actually just some dark towels. So I'll get in here once we actually get the power back on, I get the overhead light on, and I can really get in here and get some work done, and we'll make sure that filter's not leaking. And in the meantime, you know, I'll worry about trying to get myself ordered a new one. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll be able to get this uploaded to you tonight. I should have enough juice to get the interwebs up and working so I can get it, you know, uploaded and, you know, titled and all that good stuff and sent off to you. So make sure you're subscribed. That way you won't miss this or anything else I got coming up. So thanks again for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you real soon on the next one.